All right, everybody, welcome to the pitch out. As always, I am Dan Siegel. That right there is Nicholas Jarvinen, and yeah, it's a little late for us.
All right, everybody, welcome to the pitch out. As always, I am Dan Siegel. That right there is Nicholas Jarvinen.
I have no idea why I'm getting feedback.
Yeah, it's a little late for us.
Is it my computer?
There we go. No, never mind. I figured out what it was. Anyway, moving on. Technical issues. See, this is why we don't do this this late. I was saying this is why we don't do this late, because my mind doesn't work the right way. But the first time we did this, they didn't want to cooperate, so we're doing it again.
You never know the feeling of dread until you've done a 45 to 55-minute podcast to record. And
yeah.
You're just like,
apparently 55 seconds of it went on a continual loop.
Oh, God.
So
show my girlfriend that or something. She misses me.
It was the best 55 seconds of everybody's life, apparently. But no, we're here to repeat everything we did the first time around. Maybe we'll add a little extra.
But better, yeah.
But anyway, so we are going to go through the NL and AL East here as part of the previews. We'll knock out the divisions here before opening day starts. And before we do that, obviously, we'll hit on Bryce Harper when we talk NL East, but we'll talk about the other big name that signed while we were away, which is Manny Machado, who went to San Diego for the 10 years, $300 million, opt out after the 5th year. And San Diego now, maybe not so much, when they signed Hosmer last year, they were like, well, the Hosmer signing isn't maybe so much for that year, it's for the following year. And I feel like the Machado signing isn't so much for this year, but more so for next year. Because you look, and next year, they're going to have an infield of Hosmer, Urias, Tatis, and Machado. That's not to say that infield won't at some point come to fruition this year, but on opening day next year, that will be the infield. And I think the Padres now have a core in place to take a step in a division that outside of the Dodgers is kind of regressing.
Yeah, the thing I wanted to throw in there, which I said in the first podcast, so I went into a little more detail, but the thing I actually like the most with the signing is Machado's going to perform anywhere he goes. You're getting a world-class all-star player. He's a great guy to have on your team. But I like that he's at third base. He was at shortstop a lot of last year, and it didn't really work out, especially with Baltimore. He got a little bit better in LA, which might have been because of the coaching and the analytics. They might have positioned him a little bit better. But we know he's proven at third base, so I like that part of it. And I agree, it's definitely a future move. I think the Dodgers have the division this year. Kershaw, he's been battling injuries. On and off, but they have Walker Buehler to step in. It's going to be hard to compete with them, especially with the rotation the Padres have, which is obviously going to be their point of working on. But they have a lot of guys who could come up and make an impact. They have Chris Paddock, Mackenzie Gore, and Adrian Marjon are a little further away, and Baez. You got Logan Allen could make an impact this year. So I think you'll start seeing pieces together this year. Kind of like, I'm not saying they're going to win a World Series in the next 2 years, but we saw the Cubs had one of the best farm systems in baseball a few years ago, and then Bryant and Russell and Schwarber all came up. They made the playoffs. They got knocked out in the NLCS. So you could maybe see something like that. I think the pitching's a little bit weaker for the Padres. So, yeah, I like the Machado deal. I like it for both ends. He gets the opt-out option after 5 years, which is great for him, and the 10 years is good for them. They get their franchise cornerstone. So, to sum it up, that's how I'd say it.
And the funny thing was, Machado signed, and then Harper was kind of lingering out there. And then in between there, you get the Arenado extension. And I have to wonder, had the Arenado extension happened first, if the Machado market would have been bigger. Because we know for a fact that there were a lot of teams sitting there waiting on Arenado to hit the open market next year. Yankees.
Yeah.
So, had that happened first, you wonder if some of these teams that weren't in on Machado maybe would have been. and that would have then probably drove the Machado price up. We know the White Sox thought they had Machado and didn't. But 10-3 might have been 330, 10-340 with other teams, and then what would Bryce have gone for? So it's interesting how things played out there in a matter of maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then like you said, I mean, the big thing is the White Sox and the Yankees missed out, and I think I hit on it first time we recorded this as well. But I thought it kind of sucks for the White Sox that they missed out. I think they're a little further away than the Padres are, but they have Jose Abreu, and it's not to take away from Abreu, but he's aging. They don't really have that player they can build around. I mean, I guess. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm shaking the whole thing. I think they're thinking maybe Moncada could build into that, but so far early returns on him have been disappointing. So they're going to need to go out there, and the free agent market's decent next year, but either via a trade or something, they want to kind of get a superstar, top 15 player if they're really going to build that dynasty that they want to build. So they're still in search of that. The Yankees will be fine. I think the Yankees, we'll get into them later, but I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world. Andujar is not the fleetest of glove or feet, but he can hit, so they'll be okay at third for right now.
All right, let's dive into the NL East. We'll save Mr. Harper for last. And let's start with the bottom of the barrel, and that's the Marlins. The Marlins, as usual, weren't overly active in the offseason. Their biggest move was trading away JT Realmuto. And, apparently, I don't think I was angry enough when we did this the first time, so I'm going to repeat it. JT Realmuto got traded for essentially Jorge Alfaro, who supposedly has pop that we've yet to see outside of the WBC. Sixto Sanchez, who, is highly regarded as a top 20 to 30 prospect, but is coming off a minor league season in which he made a total of 8 starts. And, we can make all the Pedro Martinez comparisons we want, but, Pedro took a while to kind of get healthy and find his form, and Sixto hasn't shown a whole lot of health early on. And a third piece, which, for all intents and purposes, does not matter.
Minors. Yeah. I mean, like I said, Jeter just always gets, screwed, for lack of a better term.
No. But that's the point. He's not getting screwed. Yeah. This is Jeter being Jeter. Jeter is still being a Yankee. He tried to deal Stanton twice. That didn't work.
Giants, yeah.
And then he basically gave him to the Yankees for pennies on the dollar when he basically told Stanton, okay, when the first 2 didn't work, he never went to Stanton and went, okay, just give me a list of teams that you're willing to go to so I can try and find us the best deal. No, he went to the Yankees, took pennies on the dollar, and then basically went to Stanton and said, it's them or us. You have no other options. Okay?
Yeah.
And then with the Realmuto thing, okay, the Mets, early in the offseason, were all in on JT Realmuto. All in. That was Brody's basically number 2 move after the Cano Diaz deal.
Yeah, he wanted that.
And Jeter was asking for Conforto or Nemo plus top prospects. On what world is that the equivalent of the package he took from Philadelphia?
Or Syndergaard. Remember when there was talk that it would be a 3-way deal and Syndergaard could end up in the deal? Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know with him. I mean, he traded Christian Yelich, didn't get much. He traded
Ozuna
and didn't get much. And the thing is that the prospects he gets in these deals are just Sandy Alcantara. He's still got a young, promising arm, but we don't even know if he can be a starter. I mean, I think they're probably going to try and start him in starting rotation this year, but he might not be durable enough to be a starter. And that is the headline piece he got back from Marcell Ozuna, who, yeah, he had a little bit of a down year last year, but that is a borderline all-star. He's going to be in the middle of St. Louis's order this year, and he's going to be an impact bat. And that's why I was saying, the type of prospects he trades for are really weird. Sixto Sanchez is a great prospect. He is a top 50 prospect. You could take it away. But I said, and I'll say it again, trading for a young prospect arm like Sixto, he's about 20, 21, is the equivalent of like what the Phillies did when they drafted Mickey Mantle first overall. There's just a high risk, high reward type deal. You could have, like we said, the next Pedro Martinez, but you know there's a lot of risk. Pitchers, especially pitching prospects, rise and fall. There's not many, you know, top pitching prospects. When it comes to your head right now, when you think of the top pitching prospects, I can think of 4. There's Luzardo, Kopech, Whitley, and Mackenzie Gore. Those are the top 4 guys I can think of right now that are steady prospects. Prospects, pitching-wise, go up and down. To get a guy that young and that raw, it's really risky as a top prospect. And I actually looked up a little more on Will Stewart, did a little more research. I haven't got to watch him play in the minors, of course, or anything, but he had some pretty good numbers. But then again, you know, it's a low minors guy. We got to see what he does in Double-A. So very, very weird trade. It could end up, you know, they could have 2 good pitchers out of the deal. But still, for what JT Realmuto is basically the best all-around catcher in baseball right now, it was pretty baffling return because you could have got more.
All right, first off, can we agree and dispose the notion of people who want to throw this out there that Derek Jeter is not involved in this? Like okay, first of all, who can even name the general manager of the Marlins?
I don't know of anybody who actually says that.
No, there was a contingent. There was a contingent there. There was a contingent out here that says that
he's down in spring training and stuff.
I was going to say, he's everywhere. He's everywhere.
Yeah, he's very involved. He couldn't buy, I mean, Jeter has pretty much as big of a net worth as you can have for a baseball player. He's probably worth darn near $1 billion. For an American athlete, he's worth a lot, but still, that's not enough to buy a team. He needed investors. So he wouldn't have done it if he didn't have an interest in it. Just like Magic's involved in the Dodgers process, even though Magic might not be a baseball guy. They all have their they don't do it to help their net worth. Like Jeter obviously wants to be involved in baseball, so
he's getting paid to be an owner. It's ridiculous. Yeah. He's actually taking a salary. But 2 years of JT Realmuto got less than what the Cubs gave the Yankees for half a year of Aroldis Chapman. Just wrap your head around that.
Yeah, and Glaber's already one of the top 10 second basemen in baseball, and he's going to be a huge impact. I mean, that was,
So, but I mean, so I digress. I hated Jeter as a Yankee. I hate him still. That is what it is.
They're going to have an embarrassing year. They could be worse than the Orioles.
Oh, it'll be a foot race.
I think they will be.
The Marlins have brought veterans, Curtis Granderson, Neil Walker. Basically, they'll hope that they have decent first halves and try and flip them for meaningless prospects at the deadline because that's what the Marlins do.
Yeah, but, and you got like Miguel Rojas starting, just criminal. That's not even being competitive.
There's just nothing to talk about the Marlins.
Nothing against you, Miguel Rojas. You're a talented guy, better than me, but still. But yeah,
the Marlins. All I can say about the Marlins is they'll be dead last in the NL East. There's nothing else to talk about there.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on and let's talk about the Bryce Harper-less Nationals. Harper is gone, and Victor Robles steps in. I think we all kind of knew that was coming anyway, but now it is official. So they've got the Wonder Kids, Soto, who came up last year and had the Ruthian 19-year-old season, and now they'll look for Robles to give a similar full year this year. They brought in Patrick Corbin on a 6-year deal to now have a 3-headed monster with Strasburg and Scherzer. The bullpen's still shaky. Trevor Rosenthal comes in. He may close, he may not close, although all indications here early on is that he will, but we'll see. But, still, if Trevor Rosenthal is the back end of your bullpen,
Yeah, you and me, we disagree because there's no suspense in it for us anymore. We already know.
We went through this already.
I said I wouldn't be. I'm just going to get this out of the way. I wouldn't be surprised. I think 4 teams will have winning records to talk about. And I wouldn't be surprised if they finish in any which order. I think they all have a chance at the playoffs. And the Nationals are a riskier team. But like I said, I went over this. I think they can replace Harper pretty easily by getting production from Soto and Robles. And I said they didn't need Robles necessarily to come in and be that star player he's projected to be. They just need him to play good defense and get on base enough to make an impact on the base pass, hit seventh, just bring a little here, bring a little there, use his athleticism on the field. And then I said Soto was better teenage prospect, or had a better teenage season than Harper, obviously. Pretty much the best teenage season of all time. And so I really like Soto in the middle of that order. And I like that they brought in Dozier. Like I said, he's riskier. This whole team's got risk on him. So I think that if most stuff goes right for them, they have a really good chance. Their bullpen leaves a little bit to be desired. The bottom of the rotation is unspectacular, but I think it can hold up with Anibal Sanchez and then Jeremy Hellickson or Eric Feed or somebody in that 5 spot. But Anibal Sanchez showed he could hold his own and had a little late career surge. So I think he can be a solid number 4. I mean, it's like I said, unspectacular. You can't get excited over Anibal Sanchez anymore. Maybe in 2013 you could, but I just like the team all around. I like the fact they're going to platoon Suzuki and Yan Gomes. That seemed to work for both of them last year. They did it in different teams, but I think there's a lot to like about this team. And then I also said, they've got Carter Kieboom waiting in the shadows. They always seem to have an impact. Guy come up, so if Dozier struggles, they can do that. They have a young infield prospect, Luis Garcia. They can trade him for some bullpen help, some major bullpen help, or a starter at the deadline. So that's just what's promising about the team. But I just think that if a lot has to go right for them too. So I agree that they have risk in them. So I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to put the positive spin on it, so I'll go negative. Like I said, back in the bullpen. Well, the bullpen as a whole. I mean, basically they've got Rosenthal and Doolittle, and that's about it. Like you said, the bottom half of the rotation at 4 and 5 is eh. And when you look at that infield, Dozier, horrible year last year. Even the trade to LA didn't do much to resurrect him. And you look at the corners with Zimmerman and Rendon. Last year was the first year in a while that they got them to be healthy for the most part.
Yeah.
It's hard to bank on that because the track record says you're not going to get that from either, which is why I'm so surprised that the Nationals, once Harper officially moved on, are so quick to try and throw all this money at Anthony Rendon. I mean, don't get me wrong, Anthony Rendon is a nice player, but I wouldn't be quick to throw a whole lot of money to try and lock him up long term with his history. It's just he's a solid player, but I think for that kind of investment, you can get a better option. That's where I'm going with that. But like I said, you're right. There's a lot of upside, but like a lot of teams in this division, as we'll go through, they are as combustible as they come.
Yeah, the thing to be excited for them about is they've got that 3-headed monster locked up for a while with Strasburg, Scherzer, and Corbin. I believe it's locked up for at least the next 3 or 4 years. So, I mean, as long as none of those guys go through a big decline, which Scherzer might towards the end of that deal. But, I mean, it's pretty exciting. And then they've got up the middle. I mean, they've got Robles, Kieboom, Turner, and then, they'll have to figure out a catcher going forward. But they've got, exciting young players. And then there's Juan Soto and Rendon if they keep Rendon. So there's definitely exciting players there. So, yeah, I mean, that's what to get excited for. They've got a good top half, so their bottom half just can't see them.
To answer your question, they have that 3-headed monster locked up for the next 3 years.
3 years, okay. That's even better because, honestly, when pitchers hit decline, sometimes they're just done. So, I mean, Scherzer's getting up there, but I think he's still got a couple of years left, of dominance. So,
all right.
So, the Braves, right?
Yeah, let's go to the Braves, who won this division last year. Not many people had them pegged for that. Ronald Acuna was him and Albies came up, and, if it wasn't for them, Soto would have gotten probably more praise than he did. He was kind of forgotten because of what Acuna was doing, and then Albies was kind of overshadowed. Well, Albies had a great year, and he was overshadowed by Acuna. But, the Braves won the division last year. and now they're getting a full year of Acuna, a full year of Albies. You know, Freddie Freeman is arguably the best first baseman in the game, and nobody talks about him. They brought in Josh Donaldson on a risk-reward one-year deal that we both like.
Yep.
But, and again, we already know each other's answers for this, we're both in agreement that this team screams regression.
Yeah. And I think we both agree that this doesn't deter like their future, because they built that farm system that's so good, and they have so many young good players and Freddie Freeman to lead them. You know, that they're not going to fall like completely out of relevancy for a while. But I spoke about this last time. I said I know we're talking about the East, but I brought up the Cubs last year. The Cubs had everything go wrong. It felt like Anthony Rizzo didn't get off to a good start in April. Brian's shoulder got hurt. Addison Russell got suspended because he's had so many off-the-field issues. Yu Darvish got hurt. Quintana hasn't lived up to expectations. Across the whole board, it seemed like almost everything went wrong for the Cubs. Everything went right for the Braves last year. They had Mike Fulton-Nuevich break out. Their pitching held up. Sean Newcomb held up. I mean, you can't expect that pitching to not go through some struggles, because like I just said, pitching takes longer to develop. Sometimes you see a guy like Trevor Bauer doesn't break out till his third, fourth, fifth year. So it's not going to be all, sunshine and rainbows for Newcomb and everybody. They're going to have sophomore struggles. The league's going to adjust to them. They got to adjust back. We know those guys have the stuff to do that, to make the adjustments and be successful. But, not everybody does. So they got to find the right parts in their rotation. And we also discussed Josh Donaldson's a risk. He's a 40 home run player, but we don't know if he's on the wrong side of his career now. We don't know if he's an injury risk. There's a lot of risk in that deal. It could end up being, I think I said in the past podcast, it could end up being like Nelson Cruz with the Orioles deal, where he helps them, make a run in the playoffs, or not. It could be a really bad, not a really bad deal. I don't think there's such thing as a bad one-year deal. I like that signing, but it might not work out. Brian McCann might not bring any value. I mean, it just, there could be stuff that goes wrong, and we expect regression. So, and a lot of stuff went right for them last year. Not to take anything away from them, because I like Kuna, I like Albies, I like Freeman, I like their pitching staff, I like everything about that team. I like the way they built it up. I think they need to trade some of their young pitchers for one more impact bat, but other than that, I love everything they've done. So they just kind of, they jumped the curve last year almost. They weren't supposed to be that good.
As a, if you're a Brave fan, I'm not sure how you feel about this offseason, because you're coming off a surprise run last year. You're ahead, like you said, ahead of schedule. And really, they went out, they signed Donaldson right away, and then they signed McCann, and they said, that's it. And that's a lot of stock to put in two guys that are arguably past their prime. Donaldson has had 2-3 years now where he just can't stay on the field, and McCann hasn't had I'm not even saying McCann because he hasn't been that guy, McCann prime, but even a solid season for 3 years.
Yeah, he was hurt last year too. And then I forgot to mention Markakis. You can't expect him to repeat his all-star year.
I was going to say, you can't expect Markakis to lead the NL in hits again.
No.
That rotation, I think, was the best you're going to get out of it right now. What you got last year, you have to assume that's going to be regression.
Yeah.
Their bullpen is a smorgasbord right now. They don't have anybody clear cut, to take the ninth or even set up for that matter.
Yeah.
And for as great as Acuna and Albies were, the second year pitchers adjust. So it's really hard for anybody to step in and just assume that they're going to take the next step. You have to assume there's going to be some bump, some learning curve here in the second year. So they're looking for a lot of things to kind of roll over from last year, instead of kind of helping lift up from what we all take as a expected regression. And I don't really see them doing enough to kind of balance that out.
Yeah, I have them in the middle of the division. So, and yeah, we mentioned I like AJ Minter on their bullpen, but they haven't given him a shot really at a long-term closer role. He closed for a little bit last year. He's got an electric left arm, and then like Teheran's inconsistent, and they got beat pretty. Like they did win a game because Acuna hit that grand slam. I remember that huge moment for them, but they got beat pretty soundly in the NLDS. It wasn't really. You never felt like they were in it. It wasn't like a total blowout, but you never felt like they were in that series. And so I think there's a ways to go. They're not one of the elite teams yet.
No, they were never in that series, and I never thought they would be.
No, so I got them at third place and a winning record, and hope for the future still. So
they'll be, last year they were right under 90, I think. I'd have to double check.
Got right to 90. We both have group. We know they won the division. So
yeah, they won the division. I forget what exactly the win total was.
They got exactly to 90. Second place was the Nats.
Okay. Okay, so they did get to 90. I think they are this year probably an 83 win team, 84, somewhere in there.
I think 85, 86, somewhere in there is fair.
I was going to say, it's not going to be a giant fall, but there's going to be a slide.
And I think we mentioned that last time. Just to throw this into this one too, that's getting recorded. We don't necessarily think that the division winner is going to be a 100-game winner. It's probably going to be a team that wins 89 to 92 games. So. Yeah,
I think you think the winner is going to crack 90. I think you got to get in that 88 to 90 range to win this division.
Yeah. So your team next? Or?
Let's move on to my Mets, who have been.
I'll let you go first.
I would say they've been active, they've been loud, and as spring training hits, they've been injured because that's what they do. So we'll run through everything. They brought in Brody, the agent turned general manager who wanted to make a splash, and he traded for Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz to give them an everyday second baseman, even though I think Jeff McNeil could have done that. But, he's not Robbie Cano. I'm still higher on Cano than I think some people are. I still think that, he'll give you a slightly above average glove at second base, and I think his bat will still be more than productive. And Diaz gives them probably the best closer they've had in a decade.
For one season from Familia.
No, don't get me started on Familia. Don't get me started on Familia, who they brought back as a setup man, and I hate it. But
he did have one really good year, but
and he's the reason why they lost the World Series.
Yeah. Well, they just had a meltdown, dude. Throw. But yeah,
I was gonna say I'm not even reliving that. Let's just move on.
The only thing, yeah, I know. As a Tiger fan, we've got the pitching errors. We've made I think we made 8 errors in 5 games, and then most of them are from our pitchers. Joel Zumaya threw it right down the left field line. But back onto topic, the thing that scares me about Cano is him on an NL team aging. I kind of expected him to go to first base, but then they signed Lowry, and it looks like Alonso. When they signed Lowry, but now it looks like Alonso's going to get a shot, or Dom Smith at least going to get a shot, and then Alonso will get a shot. We'll talk about when Alonso comes up later. But I'm just a little concerned that his defense, once he gets a little bit older and a little more flat-footed,
I think they made this move with the understanding, which is the secret that's not a secret in the room, that the NL in probably 2 years will not be the NL anymore, and that we're going to have a DH all over the place. As much as we don't want it, you're the AL guy here, so maybe you don't feel as strongly about this as I do. But
I hate watching
the NL is the NL, and get the DH the hell out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I like watching pitchers hit, but we can do a whole show on that. Yeah. We could literally do a whole show on that.
So anyway, let's move off that quickly. You brought up the Lowry signing. They brought him in. They brought in Wilson Ramos after the JT Realmuto thing didn't happen. This team, like every other year, will live and die with the starting rotation. They don't have Cespedes. Whether or not they will have him at some point remains to be seen. I'm not banking on that. You know, the question is, what will that rotation be?
Yeah, and I said, another thing I said was, I think you had something to say about, I just want to throw this in there really quick. I like their top three a lot, but I have the Nats top three just a little bit ahead of theirs. So, but I think rotation depth. So that's why I said I wouldn't be surprised with their pitching if they get enough offense with them.
Well, here's the thing: if you want to compare the Mets rotation with the Nats rotation, is that you don't have as many question marks with the Nats rotation. You know what you're going to get out of Scherzer. You pretty much know what you're going to get out of Strasburg, assuming he's healthy, which last year he was. And for the most part, the last couple of years, he's kind of staying away from the injury bug. And Corbin looks like he's turned the corner. You kind of, you know, there's a kind of outside question mark, but for the most part, you're not really concerned with Corbin. Outside of DeGrom, you know, who had the historic season last year, you can't expect that to be completely the same this year. A slight regression, but still he's an ace. Then there's question marks. Syndergaard hasn't shown he can be healthy all year. You know, I need to see him make 25 to 30 starts. Zach Wheeler, terrific second half. He was actually better than Jacob deGrom in the second half. Can he show that he actually found something? Steven Matz, can he put it together? You know, Wilson Ramos, when he signed, said, of all the guys in the rotation, he's the guy I can help the most. That I'd love to see, because I've seen flashes of what Steven Matz can be, but he hasn't put it together. And then, can I get something out of Jason Vargas, other than just a heaping pile of garbage? Because that's what he was last year. Just a heaping pile of garbage. Like, if, you know, we can talk about the Phillies, who we'll talk about, and we can talk about the Braves, who probably needed another arm. But the Mets, as much as any team in this division or in baseball, scream for a Dallas Keuchel or Gio Gonzalez to bump Vargas out and give you a 1 through 5 that I don't think on paper anybody could touch.
Yeah, and they could get Keuchel for, I bet you, 1 year, which would be a great.
Well, I don't think Keuchel's signing for 1 year, because he's still a Boris client and he's still holding out, and he's, you know, Houston's kind of checked back in with him here and now. You know, we've had, you know, rumors swirl, maybe Atlanta's been involved, but, you know, but he's had contact. But you know, if he was going to sign for 1 year, you think that would have happened by now?
Yeah, I think he's going to re-sign with Houston.
That's more than likely.
More free agents.
But you know, you look around. Ramos, as long as he's healthy, which, you know, falls in line with every other Met that we're about to bring up. You know, Ramos is a huge offensive upgrade behind the dish. He's probably the best offensive catcher they've had since Mike Piazza, so we're going back a way. The first base situation, you know, you touched on. Dom Smith, outside of today's horrific performance, has had a good spring. That kind of gives the Mets a built-in reason to hold back Alonso, despite the fact that Alonso is even having an even better spring. Cano's locked in at second. Ahmad Rosario, who I think can take a big step forward this year, is locked in at short. The third base situation, Todd Frazier is hurt. Jed Lowry is hurt. So, you know, do they bring McNeil, who's supposedly going to be in the outfield this year, into third? Just Deji Davis, who they got in a trade to the Astros, start at third. You know. Basically, their third base situation is You know, the outfield situation, you know, you've got Nemo and Conforto in the corners. You know, on certain days, one of them will slide to center when McNeil's in the corner. But, you know, here's the thing that I've been screaming all offseason. And, you know, they kept Juan Lagares because he's owed $9 million and nobody will take that contract on. They traded for Keon Broxton, who, I'm sorry, he's not the guy that he was 2 years ago when he hit 20 home runs. That's just not going to happen. And then they brought in Carlos Gomez. Why? Why in the world, especially at this point when you could get him on a 1 year deal for nothing, would you not go out and get Adam Jones?
Yeah, I don't understand Gomez coming in because he hasn't played a lot of center field recently, anyways.
And why? And is he an upgrade over Lagares or Broxton?
No, I doubt he's gonna
Adam Jones screams for this lineup.
Yeah, I don't get why Adam Jones is still a free agent because there are two teams that I can think that desperately need him. A, the Mets, or B, the Indians, because the Indians don't have outfielders, which we'll talk about in the next podcast. But yeah, I could see him fitting in with the Mets too.
You know,
and they wouldn't have to give up the guys for Keon Braxton.
Like seriously, you know, they're rolling out Lagares, Broxton. They brought in Carlos Gomez. They got Rajay Davis. I mean, they've just got a slew of average guys. Adam Jones can wake up tomorrow and hit 20 home runs.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I just, like I said, I just don't trust their decision making. Their defense scares me a little bit. I don't know how I feel about McNeil in the outfield. I don't know if Cano's going to take a step back at second. I don't know about the center field situation when Juan Lagares isn't out there. So the defense scares me a little bit. It could be good, but it might, you know, I don't know.
I think, honestly, and, you know, I'm a slight homer, but I'm not an overall homer. When it comes to the Mets, I'm very upfront about how I hate the things that they do. I think the defense will at times come back to bite them, but I think it will be passable enough. At the end of the day, you know, I think they've done enough to make that offense, you know, get to the point where they'll score enough, assuming that, you know, the tsunami doesn't hit and the whole roster is gone by week 2, because that, you know, in Mets land, that can very well happen. They're already off to a grand start. But again, what am I getting from the rotation? They will live and die by that. If they all make 25 to 30 start, you know, and when I say all, I mean the big 4. Forget Vargas. Vargas can go away, go far away. But the big 4, 25 to 30 starts. If you tell me they're all doing that, then I'm confident that they've all, you know, and when I say all, Wheeler and Mott's, especially, because if they're healthy, I'm not concerned about DeGrom or Syndergaard. I know what they are when they're healthy. But Mott's and Syndergaard, if they make 25 to 30 starts, I have a pretty good idea of what I can get out of 25 to 30 starts, and I don't think anybody in the division can touch those 4 healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then if what I was thinking is if Vargas starts not to work out, you got Colomé in Double-A, so if he starts here in Triple-A and shows some results, you got a pretty good fastball, so you can bring him up too. It's not like you're lacking any, you know, any prospects at all pitching wise. So
I think if Vargas is Vargas and is garbage, I wonder if they would go that route or just try and make the subtle move of bringing a Lugo or Gazelman out of the bullpen, toss them in at 5, and then just throw another arm out there in the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's interesting what you know what they could do. They got a lot of options. So,
all right. So let's move on to the new and shiny Bryce Harper Phillies. They've been as active as the Mets have been. They've done all kinds of things. They traded for JT Realmuto, as we already mentioned. They brought in Bryce Harper. They traded for Juan Segura. All over the place.
Yeah. Well, I guess let's talk about. Do you want to talk about Harper first?
Well, we can talk about Harper and the fact that they are now married to him for 13 years. There's no opt-outs. There's no trades. And, you know, yeah, have fun with that.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was a win-win deal, even though at the end it might not be so great. Because Harper gets what he wants. He wants to stay. I think he wants to kind of be the anti-LeBron James, where he stays in one spot and helps them build a dynasty and you know, is the hero in Philadelphia for the rest of his career. And that'll take him up to the 20th year in his career, through the 20th year. The deal works for the Phillies because it keeps down the average annual value, and he already said he's going to recruit Mike Trout. And
yeah, can we talk about that for a second?
And Fred had to slap him on the wrist.
Wait, hold on. We need to hold on. I don't want to brush past that. Let's talk about this, because this isn't the NBA, and this is the first time we've ever really had something this outspoken in baseball. in that we've got a player in Bryce Harper openly, courting Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Now, there apparently is tampering rules in the MLB. I was unaware that there was before this because, like I said, this doesn't really come up.
Judge did it to Machado last year. That's the only reason I knew they got on him too.
Yeah, but Judge wasn't as outspoken as Harper has been. Judge was kind of like an in passing, like a quick little.
Yeah, he set it up the field.
But Harper was brash about it, and much like the NBA is with LeBron, and when LeBron does these things, MLB is kind of giving Harper a slap on the wrist from what we know so far. I don't know if they've officially done it yet or not, but
they just warned him.
Yeah, from all intent, in worst case scenario was he would be fined.
I just think it's silly. I mean, he's under contract, but it's like he can, if you're under contract to work and then another place starts to recruit you before the end of your deal, it's not, and says you can come over here when your deal's done. I don't see the problem with it. I mean, and we know the situation, right? I mean,
the situation as far as Trout's concerned?
Yeah, he's not going to stay in LA. I mean, come on.
Well, here's the thing. After Harper had signed, the whatever you want to call it, rumor report came out about the Angels thinking about offering him the long-term extension. But then the numbers came out, and I'm like, that's not even. If I'm like Trout, that doesn't even get me to the table. 10,350 does not get me to the table. That first number better start with a 4.
Yeah, or they got to offer him something, but he's probably worth. I would give him 10 years, $430 million. I'd say even. I think that would be. And that's bordering on fairness. I don't know. Is there going to be a strike? There's a lot up in the air right now.
The strike. It's not will there be a strike.
Will the strike
I was going to say there will be a strike. It's how will things be affected when that happens.
Yeah, they got a lot of issues. They got to stop manipulating service time, which we'll talk about at the end of the show. But it's just crazy. But yeah, I think they're going to end up with Trout and Harper, though. I mean, that's my best guess. I think that's the biggest favorite odds. So that's why I liked the average annual value. That's why I liked the deal for both sides, because Harper, I don't think Harper's that overrated. I mean, I just think he's really marketable, so he's in the news a lot almost. But he's actually a really good player if you compare him to anybody through their age 26 season, and you knew you were going to pay him this. So, I mean, for what the Phillies were able to carve out of the deal, where they had that flexibility, I liked that aspect of it, because we knew Harper was going to get paid this much. Maybe not over 13 years. We thought it'd be 10, but you take. You give him 13 years, you get the flexibility.
So you look at that lineup. Real Muto behind the plate. They move Hoskins back to first. The outfield's got Herrera with Harper and McCutchen. You got what's likely to be a Kingery and Franco split over there at third. The lineup, there's nothing you can really argue about the lineup. My issues with this team lie solely on the mound, because and again we're repeating ourselves because the first one didn't want to record, but yeah. Aaron Nola is not an ace. He's a high-end 2. When they were out here wheeling and dealing, when there was the talks of, the Indians possibly trading a Corey Kluber or even there for a split second a Trevor Bauer, that's what the Phillies needed to do. They needed the Batman to Nola's Robin, and they don't have that. Okay, and that rotation outside of Nola is shaky. That bullpen is shaky. I mean, yeah, they got David Robertson, who will likely close for them. I'm not saying he can't close, but the little bit he has closed did not go well. He's more of a setup man than a closer. So, I mean, to me, the Phillies have to play 750 to 800 ball at home.
Yeah. Like I said, I think Nola is kind of like a lower end ace. He's like a top 15 pitcher, I'd say, right now. But I agree that they need to get another pitcher because basically what everything hinges on right now is, you got Arrieta, who's a solid 3 at this point. Pavetta is a good end of the rotation guy. Then you got 2 question marks. Eflin would be okay, but what you really, really need is Vince Velasquez, who has electric stuff. I'm a big fan of his, but he hasn't shown consistently, because he's had some great starts, but he hasn't consistently shown that he is a number 2 or 3 starter. If Velasquez can develop into that this year, which I believe he has a chance to break out, he could end up solidifying the rotation. I have them as a second wild card just because I think the value they added from Harper, Segura, and Realmuto is worth probably 7 or 8 wins versus what they had last year. Because they had basically J.P. Crawford at short. Behind the plate, it wasn't. Who was behind the plate for them?
It was a mix. Alfaro was back there a lot.
Yeah.
They were throwing other people.
They had another guy too.
Who I'm forgetting.
Rupp, I think, got released, but I don't know. It was Alfaro and someone else, and it wasn't that pretty. And then obviously Harper, and they get to move Hoskins back to first, and Hoskins would have been, if you left him out in the outfield, that would have been good. Over the long term. So I think altogether that's going to add 7 or 8 wins to their total, because they're running basically with the same rotation this year as last year. And I mean, I think it's pretty fair to expect about the same result. So 7 or 8 wins onto their 80 wins is 87, 88 wins, which I have them as good for second place, and that'll put them in probably the second wild card position. So that's kind of where I have them. But when the deadline comes, they could definitely try and trade for a starter. If Bumgarner's out there, that would be huge. Like a lot of people expect. It's Bumgarner, you know what you're getting in the playoffs from him, even though he's a little bit older now. But yeah, I agree. They need another starter. Their bullpen, I think Hector Neris is kind of the sleeper out there. He struggled mightily. He went down to AAA, figured some things out, came back up and was dominant. Robertson's the veteran. He's kind of aging. You don't know. Sir Anthony Dominguez is okay to have back there, but nothing special, nothing great. So I think if Neris does good, a lot is riding on Hector Neris and Vince Velasquez on this whole season. But I think they'll get to the playoffs and get to the wild card game at the very least and start building towards the future. They still got some prospects. They still got a chance at Trout, so it could get even better there. So like I said, I could see any of these teams finishing in any position. I mean, if Gabe Kapler's tricks work and Kingery breaks out, and the Phillies could run away with the division. If everything goes right for the Nats, like I said, they could run away with the division. We saw the Braves can win the division, even though we expect regression. The Mets went out, and I actually read an article on MLB.com, and they only added, all the Mets moves only added, 1 projected win from, their Fangraphs had projected them at 83 wins, and right after the World Series, and then they project them at 84 right now. So that kind of surprised me a little bit, but we know the Mets improved a lot as well. So that the main thing for the Mets is health. It's not even necessarily the improvements they made. So
that's every year,
any team could win it. So I think we're going to switch to the DH league now, right?
Yes. Let's go to the land of we don't like pitchers swinging bats.
We have less to say about this though because. Well, yeah, I have a little bit to say about the Rays, but it's mainly
I was going to say, much like the Marlins, the Orioles are a dumpster fire. A
little more direction.
I was going to say, I don't know what, about the only thing I can say about the Orioles compared to the Marlins is, when they traded Machado last year, that was because he was in a walk year and they were not going to be dumb enough to let him walk for nothing when it was obvious he wasn't going to re-sign. But they're not trading away their best players for nothing. They just realize that they're horrible and they're in a rebuild and, they're just going through the paces right now.
They actually got a decent, Yasnel Diaz isn't a top prospect, but he's a top 100 prospect. Pretty good outfield prospect. He'll be a good hitter. But they got a lot of useful players in that deal. They got a lot of depth. They got Zach Pop, who's a good reliever. Bannon, who is a promising third baseman who could be a solid regular at the MLB. So I like that deal in the aspect that they got a lot of guys who are pretty like low floors or low or high floors. That's what I'm looking for. It's 1 in the morning. So, but I like that deal. But yeah, so I think they're gonna. It'll be hard to repeat as bad as they were last year, but I still expect 100 losses. So.
Nah, the big thing for them this year, I think, is they've got to kind of circle a couple of guys, and 2 guys come to mind for me, and that's Dylan Bundy and Chance Sisco. Okay, Bundy has been up and down, and yeah, the team isn't going to be good behind him. They're not going out there with the idea of, oh, well, let's see if he can win 20, but he's got to take a step forward. They keep waiting for him to do that. They were kind of waiting for Gausman to do that. They traded Gausman, and Gausman seemed to take that step once he went to Atlanta. But they need Bundy to do that, or Bundy could end up being another guy that they kind of move on. And Sisco was always a top 100 prospect. That we always heard about the bat and how he was going to be, especially, in Camden Yards, he'd be able to, hit 20. And since he's been given a chance, the bat hasn't played yet. So he, for all purposes, it looks like he's going to get a chance to be the everyday guy back there. And with a full year, see if he can show flashes of, getting comfortable, getting used to being in the lineup every day and showing that, that bat can play. They need signs of life from the young guys.
Yeah, I agree. Especially those guys. I mean, and Cedric Mullins will be a guy to watch. He's a fantasy guy to watch, so I'm going to throw that in there because he's a speedy guy who's going to get a chance to hit at the top of the order. But yeah, Sisco, I've always prototyped him as kind of like that rare catch who can hit second in the lineup, like good average, a little bit of power, like good defensively. So he could be like
you know who he reminds me of. Minus he doesn't have the speed, but Russell Martin in his prime.
Yeah.
Martin didn't have a whole lot of pop, but he hit for average. He was a table setter, that kind of guy.
The added bonus is Sisco's a lefty, so that gives him a little more value. So yeah. So moving on to another team with a good catcher, right? The Blue Jays.
The Blue Jays are the team of when are they coming? Everybody. You don't have to follow the Blue Jays. You don't have to follow minor league players, and you know who Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is. That's the hype that is around Vladdy. Ross Atkins, the Blue Jays general manager, said that at this moment he doesn't view Vladimir Guerrero Jr. as an MLB player. I'm sure that will change a couple of weeks after opening day, but at this point it does not appear that Vlad will be the third baseman come opening day. They've also got Bo Bichette over there at shortstop. I think Bo is probably, maybe not as ready as Vlad, but pretty close. But they'll probably make him stay down there longer for seasoning. I know you like Danny Jansen. I don't know if they're giving him a shot right away or not.
It seems as if they will, but we don't know for sure.
I was going to say, But the Orioles are, they're a team that come June are going to look to kind of hit the button on, okay, let's see where the future is going.
Yeah, with the Blue Jays, I mentioned this the first time I heard it. I feel like a record saying that. We keep saying that. They have a lot of forgotten prospects, too. There's Reed Foley, Alford. And then I said I got to watch a lot of guys come through Lansing because they're an hour down the road, easy drive. So I get to see a lot of Lansing next game. I like Ryan Noda as their first baseman of the future. He's the Carlos Santana type player, good pop, very disciplined, advanced hitter for his level. I like Kevin Smith last year. I think he's the future shortstop. I think they'll slide Bo to second. Bo reminds me of Josh Donaldson, if you want to comp on him. Vlad reminds me like a Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols type. So they really have those guys that can come up and make an impact. And Alfred, Guerrero Jr., Reed Foley, Jansen, we can see that this year from them. Lourdes Gurriel, I'm not as high on. He just doesn't. He had like a really good 2 or 3 week stretch, but outside of that, he hasn't really impressed since he's come over from Cuba. not the way that his brother has. Of course, Lourdes was more raw. They don't really have any pitching this year, so they're like a more advanced version of like these rebuilding teams because their talent's starting to come up right now, and there's not many veterans around. It's just Justin Smoke and Kevin Pillar and guys like that to kind of lead them. But they're like a solid fourth place team. But we could see them really come together.
The biggest thing for the Blue Jays this year is outside of let's wait the couple of weeks here, and then let's bring Vladdy up, and then we'll eventually bring Bo up, and we'll get the kids to play. Is let Marcus Stroman try and find the Marcus Stroman of 2-3 years ago to gain some kind of value, so that at the deadline we can get something for him.
Yeah.
Because Stroman's been vocal about wanting an extension. Toronto looks like they want no part of doing that. And frankly, if I'm Toronto, I'm not jumping at the idea of it either because, again, Stroman had that real big breakout year a couple of years ago, which actually coincided with the last time Toronto made the playoffs, the Batista bat flip year and all that stuff. And he hasn't been the same since. He hasn't been close to the same since.
No.
So, you're paying on potential. And that's a real risky thing to do when you're a team that's not exactly that far down the road as far as contending.
Yeah, I agree. They need a few more pitchers in that system. A few more prospects wouldn't hurt. So they either got to get him into gear or trade him because he could get some prospects. So. And then the Rays, I don't know if you had much to say about the Rays.
The Rays are so confusing. They really are. Because you look at them, and they've got Snell who won the Cy Young, and he's obvious. And then you look at their lineup, and even the trade they made. They had Bowers, and everybody was in love with Bowers and what he could. And then they flip him. And I mean, it's not like they didn't flip him for anything because they get Diaz, who's got similar pop, but it's almost like a lateral move,
Yeah.
And they're going, when the league's going this way, the Rays are always going this way. They don't even use starters in the conventional way.
Yeah, I think they're gonna make the second wild card. I like Snell. I think Glasnow's gonna break out. I like the Charlie Morton signing just to get that veteran and innings eater because you can't bullpen. You can't have the bullpenning strategy every day. You need. Obviously, you got your Cy Young Award winner in place Snell. And then Glasnow hopefully can, pitch 160, 70 innings. He's a lot of people's breakout pick for fantasy this year. Then you got Charlie Morton. You hope can be the veteran presence. And a guy like Jake Freya can make some spot starts and, be the guy like with Ryan Yarborough who can pitch, those 4 or 5 innings in the middle of a game for the bullpenning. So I like Freya's stuff. And then you got your opener in Ryan Stanek. Obviously, it goes by the numbers. I like how sabermetrically inclined they are. I think Yandy Diaz, he's a little bit older than Bowers. It was a little bit of a confusing move. But Yandy, I've been watching him for years now. He was with Columbus. I've actually got the chance to meet him. He's a really nice guy, really great attitude. He's the type of guy who's going to succeed because he has that good attitude. And on top of it, he has a line drive swing, and he hits a lot of line drives. And I think he's going to be a really successful hitter. He's a guy drafted in fantasy this year. And then you got guys like Austin Meadows, who I think gave them the flexibility to trade Bowers because Meadows gave them that bat in the outfield, that left-handed bat. He was almost, at this point, a little more advanced than Bowers, a little more of a sure thing. So I think that's kind of why they decided to do that. And then also the emergence of Nathaniel Lowe as a prospect. Dude smashed at every level. He's another guy who I think is going to be a great success when they choose to bring him up. They got a decent club right now at the major league level. Joey Wendell was kind of like the unsung rookie last year in both leagues. Like nobody paid attention to him, but he hit 300. He's got skills. He's a little bit of a late bloomer. There's a lot to like about the club. There's nobody that jumps out on paper, and they're the Tampa Bay Rays, so they have the least amount. I mean, unfortunately, I like watching the Rays. I've always have, but they've got pretty not big fan base. So I've always the thing about them is since Joe Madden came there, and since the new leadership came there, those guys might have left, but their philosophy stayed the same, and they have had successful player after successful player come out of there. It seems like every time that they aren't contending, they're able to flip, David Price or Chris Archer for more promising players.
Longoria.
So they have one of the deepest systems. So yeah, I mean, that was my little spiel on the Rays. I really like them, and I really think they're an unsung team, and I think they're better than the A's if I had to look at it on paper. I mean, I know it's a little bit bold, but I mean, it's not too bold. But I just like them. It's a tough division, but they all the teams can beat up on the Blue Jays and Orioles, at least in the first half, and beat up on the Orioles all year, and the Blue Jays in the first half. So I like them. So that'll move on to I think that'll bring us to the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry for the dominance of the AL. Two of the best teams in the AL besides the Astros.
Yeah, and to put a bow on the Rays as we head into the Yankees-Red Sox, my problem with the Rays is that, like you said, in the early going they'll be able to beat up on the Jays and the Orioles and kind of, linger and keep pace, so to speak, with the Sox and the Yanks. But then guess what? Come the deadline, the Sox and Yanks will spend money to go get guys, and the Rays won't.
Yeah, so they got to have that solid team that can compete all year. So it basically comes down to, is that bullpenning strategy going to work with their guys all year? Maybe we'll give, Glasnow more gas down the stretch, so Glasnow and stuff could be like a two-headed monster. It just depends. I mean, that they don't have the advantages that the Red Sox and Yankees have. Nobody really does. They're elites almost. Only the Dodgers, Cubs, and only a few teams.
All right, so let's go with the Sox first. They're the defending champs, and they're pretty content with that because they didn't do a whole lot. They're pretty much rolling out the same team from last year. They brought back Eovaldi, who had the big moments there in the World Series. They're banking on, Betts had the huge MVP type year last year. They're looking for guys like Rafael Devers to bounce back after a down year last year. So they're basically like, we won last year with guys who had big years and guys who had down years. Even if we get the regression from the big guys and the guys who had down years come up, we should be in the same spot.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when I talk about the Red Sox and Yankees, the conversation is going to be intertwined. Basically, what I said is I had the Yankees a little bit above the Red Sox because they were a little more proactive this offseason and what they got, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I just don't. The Red Sox, their bullpen. I mean, Matt Barnes, Ryan Brazier. I mean, they lost.
Yeah, I think that's the big difference right now is that when you look at the Yankees bullpen. I mean, the Yankees can go. The Yankees can do the Rays. They can bullpen. They can go bullpenning. They can have especially with, and we'll talk about it in a second, with Severino kind of down here at the start. On a day where CC pitches. If they get 4 solid innings out of CC, they can roll 6. They can roll 5-6 innings with that bullpen.
Yeah.
The Sox cannot do that. Like the Sox don't even have an answer for the 8th and 9th right now.
Yeah, that's what scares me. And then, I mean, it's just hard. It seems like there's always that World Series hangover. Like the Cubs in 2016. I mean, everything looked to be going for them. They had all their young guys come together. I mean, the core of their team was so young. So it was like, well, why won't they? They won 100 games last year. Why wouldn't they again? And we've seen them regress for 2 straight years. So it's just so hard to repeat after a World Series. So that's why I just see that little bit of regression. I mean, you really can't go up from a World Series. I mean, you technically can. You can become a dynasty, but it's just so hard. It's just so rare. So that's why I have the Yankees a little bit ahead of them, and I expect a little bit of that regression. But the Red Sox are going to be, I mean, JD, Mookie, the star power there. I mean, Chris Sale, David Price. I mean, their starting rotation is getting a little bit older. But,
well, that's the other thing, too, is that, Price had the down year 2 years ago. Last year, he came back, and he had some bumps in the road, but for the most part, he was more like David Price, and he actually pitched pretty well in the postseason. But I'm not sure that you can necessarily hang your hat on a repeat performance from David Price, only because he's been so up and down.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, David Price, it's been, I haven't got to see his home road splits. I wonder what they look like. Because he hasn't quite been the same level of elite. He's been good, but I wouldn't say like elite level since he came to Boston. He's had stretches where he's elite, and he's definitely all-star level and a good guy to go right behind Sale, but it's just, he's not quite the same pitcher, and he's getting older.
And the
Purcell is inconsistent.
And the other thing with Sale is, there's always been the conversation about Sale breaking down in September, with the White Sox, and then that first year with the Red Sox. Last year they kind of slowed him down, in August and September to have him ready for October, but he still pitched, if I'm right, I think he pitched the most innings of his career last year. So, you're never sure how guys are going to bounce back from that, whether they're older or not.
Yeah, he pitched last year. He pitched 158 innings because he got hurt for a little bit. But the year before it was 214, which was the most of his.
Was 158 combined with the postseason?
No, this is just in the regular season.
Yeah, I'm talking about with the postseason.
I can't imagine he got to 200 last year, but the past 2 years his workload was higher than it's ever been with his for sure Red Sox with the White Sox. So that was kind of what broke him down. And I think on top of everything, he hasn't nothing's really changed much as far as his numbers go. His average fastball velocity actually went up last year. It actually went up 2 straight years. So there's not much concern there because there's always been concern over him his whole career, even when he was with the White Sox and first came up because his delivery is so unorthodox. And he's 6'6", 108 pounds. So I mean, he's skinnier than I am, and sometimes I think I'm the skinniest person in the world. I need to put on muscle or something. But he's so skinny. People always thought his body was going to break down with the way he throws across his body, and he's not. He doesn't have the proper injury mechanic or injury preventative mechanics. So everybody thought he was going to break down. He hasn't done it. So I mean, it's hard to bet against him at this point. But he didn't have an injury last year, so it might, But yeah, but with the Yankees, I mean, their rotation is more of a sure thing almost, as long as Severino's healthy, because you've got Severino, Paxton, and then you want Tanaka to be the 3, which he can be, but you need the health there too. So they've got
that's if there is a kryptonite for the Yankees, it's already showing, because they got Paxton to be the 2 for Severino. Okay, now he's being pushed into a 1 here early on with Severino down. Paxton also, last year he kind of got through it, but before that, Paxton has an injury history. Okay, Tanaka has the TJ always lingering. CC is at the end of the road. I don't even know who am I missing in that rotation. Who's the 5?
CC is the 5. I think. Who? It is 1 in the morning because we had this. I mean, I feel like we're gonna feel really stupid when I look.
Yeah, but I'm forgetting somebody. But I mean that rotation, that bullpen is built. Hap. There we go. Yeah, again, stupid.
Yeah.
But that rotation, the bullpen is built the way it is because I think the Yankees know that rotation is combustible.
Yeah, and they got guys like Chance Adams' prospect stack's fallen, but they've got guys kind of behind them that you don't think about. Domingo Germán, they could catch lightning about. Jordan Montgomery is coming off an injury, so he can come back. They got Jonathan Lasagna. I can never pronounce that guy's last name, but he kind of broke out as a prospect. They've got a guy like Luis Sessa who can make a spot start. Albert Abreu's kind of fallen off the prospect ladder a little bit, but he's had some good years in the minors. He looked pretty good when he was with Pod City. He made it all the way up to Double-A last year, if just for 1 start. So he'll start in Double-A, but still, they got a little bit of depth. It's just not proven depth. So, I mean, the bullpen we know is good. I mean, they're going to mash. They're going to break the home run record that they set.
I was going to say.
Gary Sanchez is going to rebound.
Yeah, I was going to say you can't expect Gary Sanchez
of all time, like for somebody with more than 300 plate appearances, or some. It was something like that. I read some crazy stat. Like his bat, he was insanely unlucky last year. Now Gary Sanchez isn't a 300 hitter, but if Gary Sanchez can hit 240, I mean, he's very
he's not going to hit. He's not going to hit under the Mendoza line, and you'll see some regression, but the bat will play. You know what Torres is at short. While Didi is still recovering. LeMahieu is solid at second. What are they going to do at first base? Boone says they're not going to carry both Voit and Bird. I mean, I would think that
Voit gets the first snap.
Yeah, you'd think they go Voit only because you want to see Bird stay healthy for an extended period of time. But, I mean, I still think the higher upside is with Bird.
Yeah, I mean, Voit really slugged last year. I mean, you can't expect him to repeat that, but I mean, they might have found a sleeper guy who can hit in Yankee Stadium really well. And then we haven't even gotten into the Aaron Judge, Stanton, Hicks outfield. I mean, that's Stanton's in the DH, but
I'm really surprised. Aaron Hicks is a nice player, but 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, he actually had like one of the best wins above the plate, or not one of the best. He's kind of been underrated. Like if you compared him to some of the free agents this year, that wasn't that bad of a deal, honestly.
No, it's not a bad deal, and I get that they don't need a masher in center field when you've got Stanton and Judge in the corners. But I don't know. It still kind of caught me off guard. 7 years for Aaron Hicks. I mean, this was a guy the Twins threw away.
Yeah, for Jarrett Murphy. How many home runs? Just take a guess. How many home runs off the top of your head that you think Aaron Hicks hit last year, though?
15.
No, he hit 27 home runs last year.
Good God! See, that's what happens when you play at Yankee Stadium. You fall into 27.
Yeah, he's kind of had like a Curtis Granderson career path almost, with a little more of a struggle. Because Granderson didn't struggle as bad as at the beginning of his career as Hicks did. But Hicks, Minnesota just gave up on him. It was pretty ugly. But after, I mean, he had one really good, really solid year in Minnesota, and then they just dumped him off. And the Yankees used him kind of as a fourth outfielder. And they're like, oh crap, we got like a really good center fielder, and he's great defensively too. So up the middle, they're good. That's why I like the Yankees a little more. I mean, it's hard to bet against the World Series champions, but I mean, logically, they're both going to make the playoffs. And I said last time I would be very surprised if they don't meet in the playoffs. The Astros are the only way that's going to not happen, despite the Indians' rotation. But yeah, so that'll be an interesting division. So I don't know if you have anything more to say on that before we hop into the service time.
No, I mean we kind of, I think that in the NL East we're kind of in agreement that the Braves are kind of good but on the outskirts. And then, I would say it's probably 3 teams that could realistically win the division. You're probably leaning more toward 2, leaving the Mets out. Here, it's pretty clear cut. It's, Yankees, Red Sox. You're putting the Rays kind of on the cusp there.
They're step back.
I'm not sure if I'm willing to go that far. They'll be good. I just don't know if they'll be that good.
Yeah, I fallen in love with that Rays team. I mean, so yeah, but yeah. Do you remember all the guys that you threw out the service time question for?
Yeah, I can come up with the service time.
I can start us here. Vlad Guerrero Jr. will be up the day that they can call him up. That's just a no-brainer. So
yeah, I think
covering spot.
I think the actual service date, and this thing fluctuates that's another problem with this service thing, and for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, the MLB has a thing called service time, and basically it's a loophole for teams in which if they keep their prospects off the opening day roster for, it's essentially 2 weeks, it allows them an extra year of control. So, essentially, what we're talking about here is Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who should be the opening day third baseman for the Blue Jays, we'll have to wait until I believe the date is April 15th. And on April 15th or 16th or whatever, they might even wait an extra week to not make it completely obvious. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will get called up, and he will be the everyday third baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays. This was kind of made famous, so to speak, by Chris Bryant a few years ago when he just mashed in spring training, and it was obvious that he was ready to be the everyday guy, and the Cubs still sent him down.
Yeah,
and Bryant was actually vocal about service time this spring training, saying that it's bogus and it needs to change, and that teams need to start putting their best guys on the roster.
Teams did it as recently as 2013 because the Marlins carried Jose Fernandez, the Braves carried Hayward. I mean, the Tigers did with Austin Jackson, who might be thinking, Austin Jackson, but he was a top prospect. I mean, teams used to do this not very long ago, but teams started to get smarter on the business end with all the revolution of you got quality control people in the coaching staff and in the front office. And people said, well, I mean, these guys are good guys. We don't want to punish them, but I mean, why would we not want another year of control of Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? I mean, you can't really fault a team for taking the loophole. It just needs to be changed. So we can hop into your list if you'd like.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not going to go in the exact order I went in the first time, but we'll go through. All right, here's the guy we argue about, and that is the number 2 prospect, Fernando Tatis Jr. Okay, you believe the Padres will use the loophole here and hold him out, whereas I think, although the wisdom teeth thing kind of puts a little crink in this because he's going to be out a few days and that might hurt him. But Machado has been vocal about wanting Tatis at shortstop on opening day, and I think that will help his cause because obviously the bet isn't going to hurt him.
Yeah, I got him coming up in about third week of April or May. I just can't see it. I just can't justify a team doing that with a top 100 prospect where they lose a whole year of control over that. So I just can't see it. But I mean, it wouldn't be the craziest thing ever. If anybody has a chance, it's him, just because he's got such a big guy on his side. Because there's no man bigger in San Diego with the Padres organization than Manny Machado right now. But yeah. So that was the answer I gave you. But was like basically first week of May. So when May happens is when I saw him going up. But
we don't have to bring up Victor Robles because he's taking over for Bryce Harper. So there's no conversation there.
He's already got this time too.
What about your boy Eloy Jimenez? White Sox certainly aren't having anybody blocking him.
Yeah, I think that's going to be mid-May just because I think they want to get their tank on. The thing is the White Sox, he is a lot better and he will be an instant impact bat. I mean, he's going to only not win the Rookie of the Year because Vladimir Guerrero. It's going to be like a Soto-Kuna situation with him and Guerrero this year. But they've got guys that they might want to see a little more out of, like Nicky Delmonico. I mean, Nicky Delmonico isn't going to be like necessarily in their outfield of the future, but you want to see what you have in Nicky Delmonico. Give him a couple, a month more of reps at the major league level. He got hurt last year, so he's only got 425 at bats at the major league level. But at the major league level, he slashed 262, 373, 482 his rookie year. Last year he was hurt, so he was well below that. But he showed flashes of potential. He's shown that he has power, extra base power. So I think they're just going to want to see what they got in guys like him and keep Adam Engel at center, and then you got like Palka and Jay in the corners. So I think they're not going to be in any rush to get Jimenez up and let him hit AAA a little more, but I think it'll be like early to mid-May for him.
Now here's another guy who was battling for the opening day roster according to the team, but an injury might have taken any debate out of that, and that is the once high prospect infielder, now turned center fielder, Nick Senzel.
Yeah, they signed Jose Iglesias as well, so it gives them a little flexibility. They said they weren't going to put Praz in center, but they could start Iglesias at short, Praz in center. I know Praz has some experience out there. So I think that signing really put a dent in it. Senzel had a lot of injury issues last year. He had a vertigo, which is terrible for a baseball player to battle. It's not very promising. So I think they're going to want him to show that he can stay healthy for about a month. So, but there's no reason to hold him down because he'll be up at some point this year. So, I mean, he'll be up by June.
So his position has changed about 47 times already.
Well, Suarez showed that he's one of the top third basemen in the league, so I think they just were like, well, he can't play third, and then they moved him to second, and they're like, man, then Scooter Gennett broke out, and they're like, oh, man. And then they're like, well, maybe he can play short, and then Perez is at short, and they're like, well, we're getting rid of Billy Hale, so he got a position center. But it's Senzel, he's like the NL version of like Eloy Jimenez. His glove's really good, and he's more athletic and faster, but his bat's going to be his calling card. I mean, calling him the version of Eloy Jimenez isn't really fair, because he's a little more better all around, but his bat's going to carry him.
We already kind of touched on him, but Bo, Bo. I'm thinking June for Bo. He's, I think, if it were me, him and Vlad would be the opening day left side of that infield. But I think they want Bo to get a little more seasoning than Vlad.
Yeah, I think it's going to be sometime in like July around the trading deadline. They'll probably flip Freddie Gillis, so probably around then. So I'll probably bring him up sometime in July, maybe like the 4th.
What are we thinking about Forrest Whitley?
I definitely don't think they'll start him in the majors, but especially if they don't re-sign Dallas Keuchel, I think he'll be up by June, because they've got Josh James and McHugh. Lance McCullers is out for the year, but McHugh's going to fill in that 3 slot, and then Josh James I think will be a solid 4, but Whitley can come up and be that 5. The thing about Whitley is he's a top prospect, but I wouldn't expect him to be anything more than a 5-starter this year with flashes of brilliance here and there, but it's going to be more of an innings eater, because it takes pitchers a little more time to develop, and he lost a lot of time last year due to that 50-game suspension, which kind of hurt his development and the aspect of him coming up this year. So I wouldn't expect too much from him this year. I think he's going to be great in the future, but start your be slow with them. But I'd say by June.
All right. We'll do the last 3, all pitchers, 2 of which I know we're going to disagree on. The first, we're going to go with Dylan Cease.
Yeah, I said, what did I say the first time? Like in the middle of the year, right?
Yeah, you were late on Cease, and I agree. I don't think you're going to see Cease for a little bit.
I remember I said I think 10 starts. I think it's kind of like what they want to do with Kopech last year. I mean, they're going to want him to be on an opening day roster 2020. So I think 10 starts. Look at him, 10 major league starts, at least 50 major league innings, hopefully 60.
All right. Now, here are 2 guys that I think have legit shots, despite the service time, of being on the opening day roster. One of which I know you vehemently disagree with me on, and that is Jesus Luzardo.
Yeah, he's been so rapid in his rise. And Billy Beane said, he wants to be careful with him. So I almost don't see him coming up until September and maybe even doing a David Price role. The only way I can see him coming up before then is if the guy goes down with an injury and they're right in the middle of the race, because I just think they're going to be really careful with him. He's come up so quickly, because he was just drafted out of high school in 2016, got traded, and he's just shot. I mean, he was always a top prospect, but he shot up the ranks, so, I don't know.
And the other guy is, since we talked about San Diego so much, they've also got arms. Chris Paddock.
Yeah, I think Paddock's going to be up a little bit earlier in the year. I was thinking June. So I think the Padres are going to be in it a little more than people think. I think they're going to be flirting with a winning record. I think they're going to want to get him some serious starts. And I've watched a few innings of his spring training innings. I actually got a spring training game on over here. But he's looked pretty promising. He looks almost major league ready to me. So I think they'll be a little more patient with him. So June, July.
All right, so those are all the prospect fun that we've got right now in the service time boogaboo that is holding everybody back. So to wrap this up, and we can actually go into a little more detail this time around than we did the first time around, and that is the Dynasty Draft / League that you and I did about a week and a half ago. And you and me think alike very much, which bothers me a lot. And you were able to take a couple of guys that I was after, but we both had we both had similar ideas as to where to take Vlad. You drafted at the back end of the first round, which would have been an ideal spot to take him. I drafted at 4, which I thought was too early to take him, and he went right in between at 7.
Yeah, it's a dynasty league, which I if you said it, it went right through my head. But it's a dynasty league, so there's that. So Vlad has a little more value than Ethan has. But I said even in a regular draft, I'm fully prepared in a money league to take Vladimir Guerrero in the second round this year, because he is. I just think he's so sure with the bat, and I mean, you don't need to be Mike Trout. I mean, fantasy wise, I mean, he's not going to steal bases, but he's going to hit home runs. He's going to hit for average. He's going to the RBIs and runs will come with it. He's going to be up. He's that talented. He will be a first rounder next year. So if you get him in the second round, you're getting him at a value. So I was ready to take him in the first round, but I was actually going to take Alex Bregman first, which I ended up doing because I think Alex Bregman's probably going to be the biggest threat for Mookie Betts and Mike Trout to be MVP this year. I think he's really taking steps forward fast, and I know he's an advanced hitter. He was an advanced hitter in college, and that approach just came to the MLB with him. He was my first round pick, and then I was going to try and sneak Vlad in the second round because I was the 13th team out of 14 teams to pick, so really only one team would have had to pass on Vlad for me to get him. So I was going to try and do that, but Vlad got taken before my first pick even happened. So, and then I think you want to talk about a couple of guys that I stole from you, right?
Yeah, well, you did steal a couple of guys from me. My outfield turned out as well as it could in a dynasty because I got young in all three spots. I took Acuna with my first pick at 4, which, in the first round, if you're not going, Trout or Vlad, I think Acuna is among consideration for the top dynasty picks. And then I got Benintendi, who, is a top 10 outfielder, and I got Conforto, who I think will take another step forward this year. So that's fine. But I wanted a fourth guy, like a guy to rotate in, and I wanted another young piece to go with them. And I had 2 guys in mind, and you got both of them in Eloy and Robles.
Yeah, my team actually might suffer a little bit at the beginning of the year because I have Senzel, Eloy. I have a couple guys who might start in the minors but be up. So it's a little bit scary. But I agree with your philosophy of young hitters, and then I like more veteran pitchers. I think the first time we recorded this, I hit on I said I didn't get Robbie Ray, but I did in this league. I don't know what I was thinking. But I drafted Robbie Ray because he's a good veteran pitcher who's not too old, and he gets a lot of strikeouts. So I was more about guys like him. I mean, later on I drafted Zach Godley. It's a 14-team league, so you kind of got to dig for pitching depth. I drafted some young guys like Glass now and Walker Buehler, who I think Walker Buehler is the best sure thing for.
I was upset when you took Buehler.
Yeah, Josh James, I think he's one of the safest rookies. Ryan Baroque, he's not going to be a top guy, but he came up last year. I've gotten the chance to watch him pitch with Lansing, and he always struck me as a guy who could have an impact at the major league level. I got Matt Barnes. He had a little concern, a little rate last year, but he's still young, still room for improvement. So I like Giolito to get better. So I just kind of got guys who can eat innings. I like to try to be more veteran-based pitching-wise, even in the dynasty, because with your philosophy of young backs. But in the outfield, I mean, you couldn't go wrong with Eloy or Victor. They're both going to be, in different ways, impactful fantasy players. Victor a little more toolsy, Eloy a little more slugger type. And I got my Aaron Judge fielder. I think I drafted him in the second round. I got a lot of home runs. I have Joey Gallo, Story. I was happy I got Danny Jansen. I think he'll be a solid catcher. The catcher position, you want guys who aren't going to kill you. I got Meadows and Diaz because, I got that love affair with the Tampa Bay Rays. It made me draft a third baseman in the last round, even though I already drafted a corner infielder. So I had to take Taylor Ward. But I think if he gets a shot, if Zach Cozart struggles a little bit, he could be good. But overall, I liked my team, which probably pisses you off. So
okay. Well, what I was going to say to you was honest assessment. Break down your roster as it stands.
which I just kind of did.
Well, I mean, let's put it this way. All right, I'll rephrase the question then. What is if you said you had a glaring weakness right now? What would it be?
You know, I have Tyler Glasnow in my relief pitcher position, and I have Sean Doolittle and Matt Barnes, who are kind of closers but aren't sure things. So, I mean, obviously, I need some relief help. You know, starters a little more shaky. Like I said, I mean, I'm relying on. There's a little more risk in that. Steven Matz, I know you want him. You know, Matz is a little bit risky with injuries. Godley didn't have the best year. Baroki and Glasnow are young. Giolito's young and had a bad year. Stroman's inconsistent. So, I mean, I'm very comfortable with my offense. They're a little bit, in some ways, the offense might be a little bit too young. It's where I'm almost drafting a little bit into the future where my team might not be a leading offensive team this year, but if you kept it fully intact, it might be in a few years. But overall, I'd say just the relief pitching and pitching overall would need a little bit of a boost. And you know, but I know we've talked about some of the young guys. You know, to get Eloy Jimenez, you're going to have to give me another impact bat, and I'm going to want an impact arm. And then, you know, maybe another prospect, because he's just that impactful player, I think. But you know, if I were to do that, that's what I want.
I mean, when I look at my team, the lineup, honestly, I don't know if I can find a spot that I would say is a hole. I mean, I've got Real Muto at catcher, who when we talked about the Phillies, you know, he's arguably the best catcher in baseball.
And you're not going to trade him for Rhys Hoskins?
No, I'm not. I was like, we'll get into bad trade offers in a moment. You know, and even, you know, because I always like to carry a second catcher, you know, because you never know, you know, you don't want to be that guy who's caught with Salvador Perez who then needs Tommy John and you don't have a catcher. And then that's why you offer Rhys Hoskins for JT Realmuto. But I drafted Francisco Mejia, who for a long time was touted as the best catching prospect in all of baseball. And I think, you know, he's showing flashes in spring training. I know it's spring training, but I think, you know, now that he's in San Diego and despite all the rumors in the offseason about will he get traded, will he not, you know, he might actually feel somewhat comfortable and that bat might play and he'll show some of that potential.
His bat is ready. It's his glove. They're not sure he can stick behind the plate. I always thought he was an okay catcher. He's a little bit small for the position, but he's got catcher eligibility, though, so if his bat comes around, that's all that matters.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, at first base, I've got Josh Bell, who, you know, nobody's going to mistake him for a top, fantasy first baseman, but he's solid. And I've got Alonso waiting in the wings whenever the Mets decide to give him, you know, the shot. So that's a solid 1-2 punch there. You know, Torres at second base, I can't go wrong. Andujar at third, I can't go wrong. We talked about Rosario at shortstop. I'm rolling the dice. I didn't have, you know, until Tatis comes up for sure. I didn't have a pure other middle. Yeah. I didn't have a pure other middle infielder, so I'm going with Jeff McNeil because he still has second base eligibility. And you know, if anything, I don't care about how shaky he is in the field because we're not worried about that in this league. He's got a solid bat, and until Tatis comes up, he can do enough.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about when we talked about the Red Sox. I think Devers will bounce back, so he's solid at the corner, and the outfield is fine. And then my bench, I already said I have Alonso, and then I've got middle infield for days. Okay, you know, Torres, Rosario, McNeil, Tatis, and then I've got on my bench I've got Kieboom, who we talked about. You know, not an impact at the start, but he'll be an impact. And I've also got Keyston Herrera from Milwaukee.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's a really good hitter, solid hitter.
You know, I mean, the oldest guy that I have as far as hitting is concerned, and whether or not he remains on my team, you know, long term, you know, remains to be seen. But that's Ben Zobrist, who, as a fill-in, is fine.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy you could just get rid of at any point anyway, so.
But much like you, it's my pitching where the problems come in. I took a lot of roll of the dices at the relieving spots. Jeffress is probably the surest thing I have, but he's hurt right now. I'm not even sure if he's going to be ready for opening day. Jordan Hicks shows promise, but I don't know what he will be. We talked about Trevor Rosenthal and that Nationals bullpen. I've got Colomé, who looks like he's going to be the closer for the White Sox, how many opportunities he'll get. And then I've got Greg Holland, who's battling for the closing role in Arizona. So It's a lot of roll of the dices.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that I was going through and I posted my rankings on just my personal blog that I just post some stuff on, which I can post on my Twitter, which I'll give my Twitter at the end of the show. But there are not a lot of true he's going to be. Whoops, it's loud. But he's going to be the closer this year. I can actually have it up right here. But there's just not. There's 10 guys where you're okay, he's going to be the closer. But a lot of teams are using this relief ace, and which is good from a strategy standpoint, non-fantasy baseball. This is real life baseball, where they're not using a closer. I mean, there's Blake Trinan, Edwin Diaz, Aroldis Chapman, and Roberto Ozuna, Jose Leclerc, Felipe Vasquez, formerly Rivero, Kenley Jansen, Brad Hand. And those are the sure guys who are going to be closers. Wade Davis, Raisel Iglesias, Ken Giles, Corey Knebel, Kirby Yates. So he's probably about 15 sure closers. But then mixed in here, I've got Craig Kimbrell, who doesn't have a team. Sean Doolittle, who we don't know if he's going to be a closer. Josh Hader, who is definitely not going to be a closer, is a relief ace. Dylan Betances, David Robertson, who could share duties. Archie Bradley, who's battling. Greg Holland, AJ Minter, and Vizcaino. Pedro Strop and Brandon Morrow. Morrow's hurt, but so you don't know what they're going to use. Andrew Miller and Hicks, Cody Allens, and the Angels. He had a terrible year last year, though. Will Smith and Mark Melanson, Trevor May, Matt Barnes. I mean, Shane Greed and Joe Jimenez. There's just so many guys who aren't surefire closers anymore. So people are kind of ignoring that trend because people are oh no, with this bullpenning, there's no more wins to be had. There's always going to be one winner to a game. But it's harder to find that guy who's going to get the win because it could be any one of the 12 guys where it's usually the starting pitcher 60-70% of the time, in the normal environment. But saves are kind of going out the wayside too.
So yeah, I'm rolling the dice with relief, and then the reason why I had come to you about trying to strike a deal for Mott's is because I'm looking at my starting pitching, and another arm would probably be helpful. Because I'm looking at my starting pitching here. I've got Flaherty, who is by far my guy.
Yeah.
And then after that, I've got John Gray, who has potential, but am I going to get it? We talked about Luzardo and whether or not he'll be there opening day or when he will come. Kopech is gone for the year. Sonny Gray, I'm looking for a rebound, but he's supposed to make his first spring training start tomorrow. We talked about Alcantara, whether he's going to stick as a starter. And then I've got, McCullers, who's gone for the year, and Lamet, who's gone for half the year. So I'm thin at starting pitching.
Yeah, I feel you. And the thing is I don't want to trade Matt's a younger guy with potential for Greg Holland or Rosenthal just because they're older and they're question marks injury-wise. And that's why I'm kind of balking at that deal because, I mean, if it were Matt's for Jordan Hicks, I can understand why you wouldn't want to do it. There's not a perfect trade match right now. So we're going to either, like I said, I like to sit on my fantasy team because I like to think that I prepare really well for our drafts and have a good, I can use my head all around, have good selection knowledge where I can be comfortable with my team. But, I mean, if a deal blows me away, I'll take it. But I like to sit with my team, and I'm not ready to give up on Matt's just because I have a little bit of a relief need right now because if I'm in it in the middle of the year, I'm more prone to take the deal just like an MLB team. So that's kind of why I was balking at the deal, which
Well, here's the other thing, and, let's before I get to that, because there's only one other person in this league that I know actually listens to our show. The other ones don't. So we can bash on people as much as we want here. which I'm about to do.
Anybody in our league actually listens to the show.
Yeah. Oh, people. Hey, we got one. So, right, we already made reference to the Rhys Hoskins for JT Realmuto offer that came from our owner Charlie, who made the mistake of drafting Salvador Perez and nobody else at catcher. So then basically pitched Hoskins for every top tier catcher that there was in the league, and then tried to say that Hoskins was worth more than any catcher in fantasy, which is a
debatable thing. Not debatable. It's. I mean, I could see why you'd say that, but it's something that I guess it's a matter of opinion. If you're looking at straight ranking, he probably is better than the best ranked catcher. But when you take into account what you have in Realmuto at that position, probably not exactly.
But then here's the thing, okay? So he after the Rhys Hoskins pitches were of no avail, he went to the free agent bin, where there were actually some here. Hold on, let me see who remains in the free agent bin so I can give you an idea.
Catcher's my philosophy is always bad and always will be in a league like this, at least. Yeah. Just don't get a guy, at the very least, if you can't get a good catcher, like an above-average catcher who's going to help you, don't get a catcher who, is like hitting 200.
Now, mind you, I offered him Francisco Mejia. I did offer him that, which his response was, "I'd rather go to the free agent bin than take Francisco Mejia," which shows how much he knows about Francisco Mejia.
For Rhys Hoskins?
I don't know if that was the exact deal. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't think I'd take that just because Hoskins is the sure thing and Mejia's still.
Well, yeah, no, I get that, but he was just flat out dismissing Mejia altogether. Not even.
I would dismiss Mejia.
Okay,
but the only thing is Mejia won't get consistent.
All right, but in the free agent bin currently, okay, as far as guys that will get consistent at bats, Francisco, who we mentioned, Elias Diaz in Pittsburgh, Austin Barnes will get at bats with the Dodgers, McCann, Zunino, even Iannetta, all options currently in the free agent bin. Our man Charlie, first of all, in a dynasty league in which we do have formerly known as DL, now IL spots available, he
dropped Salvi, right?
He dropped Salvi, which
I didn't get that.
Why? And his response to I'd rather go into the free agent bin as opposed to taking Francisco Mejia was picking up the combination of Robinson Chirinos and Mitch Garver.
I've gotten to see a lot of Mitch Garver. He's going to share playing time with Jason Castro, though, and I mean, he's a good, as far as backup catchers go, he's more of a bat-minded catcher, but nothing special by any means. And who was the other guy?
Robinson Chirinos.
Yeah, I mean, he's on Houston, so I mean, he'll have some of the counting stats, but he's never stuck out to me. I mean, he has a little bit of power, and with that will come a couple RBIs and runs this year, but I mean, he's liable to have one down here, too. He's not anything special. I would have went with, I mean, especially in a dynasty. I mean, even if you weren't in a dynasty league, Chris Iannetta plays in Colorado, so that's a plus side. And then you said another veteran. Oh, Zunino. He has a lot of power. Zunino, he might kind of hurt your batting average. His batting average C-score is might be a full standard deviation negatively away from that mean, but he's got power. And then Cisco, I mean,
if you're going in the free agent bin for two catchers, you go with an Iannetta, a Zunino, a veteran, and then you take Cisco, and hope that Cisco finds himself. That's the obvious move. But Charlie is not.
That's why he's listening to us.
No, I don't think Charlie listens. Charlie runs away.
Oh, okay. Make sure we're bashing our listeners.
Oh no. Now our listener,
Charlie.
Our listener is a little gun shy on the trading. So
okay.
So the other guy we can bash on because he doesn't listen is the trade that you got from Christian.
Oh God. what was it?
For Eloy.
It was two guys. Oh, what was it? Okay, it wasn't the worst trade offer I've ever seen, but it was one of those trade offers that you're like, man. Well, Sean keeps bothering me too. He wants like my good point, like Story and Bueller's.
Okay, well, again, this is a show that nobody listens to from our league, so I can tell you this in full. Sean is like, see, you know me now, so I can't use my usual tricks on you. Okay, which is why I can't use my tricks on most of this league anymore because I've been in leagues with these guys for a long time. But Sean is a lot like me, where he will offer you 3 or 4 very mediocre to bad players for your top guy.
Yeah, it's like that quantity over quality. Like
yes, yes, he's looking.
Like, oh.
He is the definition of a trade raper.
Yeah. Okay, so he offered me David Dahl and Brett Honeywell, which, like I said, 2 good players in their own right, or good prospects in their own right, for Eloy Jimenez and Forrest Whitley. But you got to break it down this way. I'm basically trading Eloy Jimenez for David Dahl, which, I mean, David Dahl, he looked really good in the second half, and he's in Colorado and power steals guy. But for Eloy Jimenez, I mean, we're talking about like one of the best hitting prospects in recent memory. I mean, if Vlad Guerrero Jr. didn't exist, Eloy Jimenez is getting all of this hype right now. So, and then Forrest Whitley for Brett Honeywell, which going into 2 years ago, or last year even, Honeywell and Whitley were kind of at the same level, but Whitley did get suspended, but he was healthy, and he's a top 20 prospect, and Honeywell is still a top prospect, but Tommy John lost the whole year. So, I mean, Whitley still gets the edge there. So I'm not winning either side of that when you look at that, like, you know, head-to-head. So, I mean, I don't know why I would accept that offer.
I got offered Dahl for Luzardo.
Yeah, which is different. At least he made you think at an angle, because my trade, I could literally break it down into, okay, well, this is Jimenez for Dahl and Whitley for Honeywell, which, I mean, it's not, I mean, that isn't the worst deal you could offer, but, I mean, it's definitely like, I'll give you 70 cents on your dollar. Like, it wasn't, I'll give you
I don't even think I don't even think you were getting 70.
Yeah, it was 50 cents, probably.
Probably a quarter, but, you know.
Yeah. But it wasn't just like, here is James McCann for Eloy Jimenez, and you're like, what are you talking about? So.
Now, real quickly here before we go, and to put a bow here on our league discussion. Okay, you are of the train of thought that you are confident in your drafting abilities, and that's why you hold off on early trades. You want to see how things go here in the first couple of weeks before you start to tinker. And that's all. Yeah. And I understand that, and that's well and good, and you know, people with that mentality, more power to you. There is a majority of our league who are not trading either because A, they just flat out are afraid to because of lack of knowledge, or B, they have a glaring need and are almost afraid to fill the need because they're trying to fill short-term and long-term at the same time. And it's hard to sacrifice. When you're trying to fill a gap, especially in a dynasty league, sometimes you have to sacrifice the long-term for the short-term.
Yeah, I mean, it's one way or the other. You have to have a direction. I mean, you're basically got to view your team as like a major league team, and every major league team has a direction. Like we talked about the Rays earlier, their direction is obviously trending upward. We talked about the Orioles, who are probably going to have to go downward, or already did go downward, so that way they can go back upward. So you kind of have to view it like that. And obviously, this is the initial draft, so this was like, you know, when you go into Madden and you do the fantasy draft at the beginning. So you want some veterans. I mean, it's good to have those veterans on there, but you want to draft more young guys, or at least younger veterans. Like, I mean, like, who's a good example here? I mean, like Joey Gallo. Like, he you know what he is. He's a like, you know, he's a proven power commodity. You know, he's not going to get much better, but he's young, and you know, and Alex Bregman. I mean, he's an extreme example. He's my first round pick, but like, Like I drafted Miguel Cabrera. I mean, you want some veterans. Like I think Miguel Cabrera is going to kind of back and provide things.
Here, I'm going to give you this scenario because it happened, and then you can give me the outsider view because I was involved in the conversation. So again, a person who doesn't listen, who is in our league, Sean, who also traded for Mike Trout and gave up absolutely nothing to get him. I'm upset about that. Okay, his middle infield situation outside of his shortstop spot is frankly a bag of garbage. Okay, he's got Bogarts at short, so he's fine there. But like he picked up Adam Frazier to put at second base, which is eh. His middle infield spot is Hernan Perez, which is eh. And then on his bench he's got Miguel Rojas and Keener Falifa. Okay, so that second base middle infield spot could use a little boost.
How many? Yeah, how many votes does it take to veto the trade?
9.
Oh God! Why did 7 people uphold it?
Because in this league 7 people are idiots.
Actually, hypothetically, the trade might not go through if we got everybody else to veto it. It's Jose Altuve, Jace Fry, and Julius Chastain for Mike Trout. Which I mean, it doesn't. I mean, maybe for Mookie Betts, Jace Fry and Julius. I mean, it's not like where
basically the breakdown of that trade is the guy who drafted Trout never wanted Trout in the first place, and he's a Astros fan, so he got Altuve and he just took extra pieces.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, I used to be a kind of a real big homer because I'm sorry, I disregarded your question, but I just wanted to see what the trade was because I didn't even notice it. I vetoed it though, but I mean, I'm a Tiger fan, but the Tigers are going through a rebuilding stage. There are not many Tigers I want to draft right now. I mean, I might draft if I were in a deep league. I might consider Daniel Norris because I still think he's got talent. I mean, I'd consider Mike Fulmer at the right position in the draft. I would not draft him too early. And Cabrera and Castellanos are about the only guys that I'm going to draft on the Tigers, though.
Okay.
And they're the only 2 guys with fantasy value. So,
yeah.
I mean, you just can't.
Nah, we have
you have to separate yourself from it. I mean, it's just like, I mean,
we have a Cardinal fan in this league who drafted Goldschmidt and will not even listen to any sort of offer on him.
Well, that's in a way that's different though because he at least drafted him and he doesn't want to trade him, which I respect a little more. I mean, so to just give up Mike Trout for, I mean, Altuve's good, but I don't know.
That's less than your 25 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, I mean, Altuve's really good. I mean, but he's not Mike Trout.
No. And then the combination of the other two still don't get you to Mike Trout.
No. Oh, Jace Fry is going to be a middle relief pitcher, so. And Julius Chastain is not ever going to repeat his last year. What was your question?
Okay, so did you even listen to the names that I threw at you?
Say them again. I did, but like I was so baffled.
All right, so he's got 4 guys here that we could put in this spot, and the 4 are Adam Frazier, Hernan Perez, Miguel Rojas, and Keener Falifa.
I was just making fun of Miguel Rojas earlier.
Yes.
Show.
Okay, so that's the 4 for his second base and middle infield spot.
Isaiah Kiner Falifa would be a perfect option if you needed a second catcher because he's got speed out of the catcher's position and the hitting ability.
Well, I think that would. I mean, in his current setup, he would be his second catcher. So, okay,
yeah,
but anyway, so
he's rosterable, but Frazier's not going to be that good. I mean, he's got his hit ability is what got him to the majors, but he's not fancy. And the upside to Perez is his speed, but is he really going to get a chance to play? I mean, Orlando Arcia is going to get a really good look after his postseason, and Travis Shaw's their second baseman now. So
okay, all right. So we're sharing a brain with his current situation. So I made the offer of helping him short term and sacrificing long term because overall he does not have a whole lot of long term options. He went with the win now mentality. He's not
a win now mentality. That's just a fill the spot mentality.
Well, he's not. Let me put it this way: as far as young guys, he doesn't have a whole lot of them. So, here was my offer, and you tell me if I'm way off base with this.
Okay.
Okay. I offered him Zobrist because I figured that was an upgrade over what he had currently.
Yeah.
For Tristan McKenzie.
Because
I figure McKenzie's still a ways away.
Personally, I would decline your offer, but I don't think it's like, if he said you were crazy for offering it, I don't think it's crazy. The thing about Zobrist is he's lost a lot of his power, and he's old now.
Well, yeah, he's got no power left.
So he's kind of an empty batting average. I mean, you kind of hope that he gets a lot of starts at the top of that Cubs order, and he scores a lot of runs, or it can drive in some runs, but he's kind of a batting average guy at this point, which is funny because he used to not hit for the highest batting average, but he was power, speed, versatility, wins above replacement, like saber player. But now he's kind of developed almost into, he still takes his walks, which count in this league, but he's just more of an empty batting average. That's why I wouldn't take, he's just on the decline.
Yeah,
I wouldn't take it, especially because you said he doesn't have many prospects in the first place. So I can understand why I'd reject it, but I don't think it's a crazy offer.
No, he wanted. I think he was leaning more toward McNeil, and I wasn't going to do McNeil only because McNeil's got higher upside. Like McNeil's got some power to him.
He also might have less play. I don't know. I mean, he was kind of in a sticky situation with that position, anyways. But yeah, both average and on base count in this league, and walks. So, see, people are making fun of me for drafting Gallo and Judge because like, oh, you got all the strikeouts, but strikeouts aren't even a category. And what people forget is those guys walk a ton. I mean, Judge was projected at 103 walks on ESPN.
Listen,
Gallo's
I'm gonna be very honest here. Okay, despite the fact that we both went really young. And despite the fact that my pitching is as slim as they come at the moment, okay, based on the people that are in this league, if we both, you and I, are not at least sniffing the postseason picture, it's a disgrace.
Well, I won't disgrace it.
Okay, because half this league, the intelligence when it comes to baseball, let alone fantasy baseball, is just not there.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't get the trade-off.
And that's just how it is.
But yeah.
But Carl, who is in our league and does listen to the show, see, I said nothing bad about you. So there you go.
Yeah, we love you, man. I'm not going to say anything bad about you because I appreciate the fact you actually listen to us. So
that's right. And he actually says we don't put him to sleep. He enjoys it. So we're doing something right.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm exciting. I mean, we could mix a little pop culture to keep people interested.
So I have good news because I keep bringing this up with every show.
Yeah.
The intro
is good.
Is almost done. All the pieces are there. It just needs to be blended.
I don't think you're ever gonna get it done.
No, it's done. I have it. It was there. It just needs to get blended. It's a little difficult because I will give you a sneak peek here as we end the show. The intro is going to be a mix of baseball movie quotes with actual MLB video that kind of somewhat corresponds to it.
Is there a Bull Durham quote in there?
There are multiple Bull Durham quotes.
Okay, I can respect that.
In this.
Bull Durham is the best baseball movie of all time. Another thing we could do a whole episode on. But, I mean, everybody loves The Sandlot. Everybody loves Major League. But Bull Durham, it mixes it all together. It's realistic. It's got the baseball aspect of it. It's funny. It's a love story, so you can watch it with your girlfriend.
Off the top of my head, we have Bull Durham in the intro. We have Sandlot in the intro.
That's a good movie. I'm just saying Bull Durham's my favorite.
We have Field of Dreams in the intro.
The intro?
Trying
the natural doesn't really have quotes, so it's just more like a whole like.
Yeah, no, natural isn't in there. We have Major League in the. We have Major League in the intro. I was gonna say.
Not bad, man. Who is this outfielder? Oh man, I'm looking at the Tigers and Yankees are out, and that was the most saddest excuse I've ever seen for an outfield play. Yeah. He's number 84 though, so
yeah, you
just turned my head.
That's what spring training gets you.
Also, the Tigers traded for Cameron Rupp today, so we got our backup catcher. So.
I was like, you had to get that in there, didn't you?
You know, I'm happy with it. He will help us in the thinking process while being a solid veteran presence as backup catcher. So
sure,
you can't argue with that.
Right.
So
well, guess what? Right. On the next episode, Nick will get to go all Cameron Rupp on you because we're going to dive into the Central, both the NL and AL. So that'll take place on the next show. This show, by all accounts, is recorded and streamed properly. So if you didn't get to watch us live, you can check it out on YouTube. Nick hopefully remembered or has his Twitter up, but
yeah, it's right here.
I was gonna say if you want to tweet at us and be like Carl and tell us how awesome we are, you can do that, or you can tweet at us and tell us that we put you to sleep. Either way. But my Twitter is my name. It's at Dan Siegel Uncut. And Nick, you can attempt to spell yours out so people know how to actually tweet you.
Yeah, it's so I have two Twitters. One's just a personal one for my friends, but this one's the one I'm going to use. It's JAR, the number 9NI. So it's at JAR9NI, and I will tweet out the rankings I have, and I'm trying to write in between school and everything, a couple fantasy articles and prospect articles before the season starts. So if you want that content, I'm just going to do a little self-promotion here. So
you can, you can tweet at us, tell us what you think about our predictions, tell us that we need better haircuts, whatever the hell you want. I don't care.
Tell him that his Twitter, like Lenny Dykstra, make fun of his Twitter name and be like, so is it uncut? Because what did he say? Didn't Lenny Dykstra make fun of your Twitter name once?
Yes, Lenny Dykstra was also supposed to come on my show at one point, and I just kind of canned that idea.
That was not back in half, and that guy talks out of his book.
Yeah,
so
I thought it was a good idea at the time, but it really wasn't. But anyway,
I mean, it's not a bad idea. It would have made it entertaining.
I don't know. I don't know what it's labeled as. It's not. Maybe it's not labeled as bad, but it's definitely not labeled as good.
It's definitely just an idea. I mean, it'd be entertaining, but you don't know if your show would just get blacklisted after that because you don't know what that guy's going to say.
Then that's probably the good portion of the idea. But anyway, that's it for the pitch out this week. Because this was the late night edition and it's later in the week, the new one will be back very shortly. So stay tuned. So stay tuned for that. Until then, for Nick, I'm Dan, and we'll see you guys next time.